All right, guys, we're going to be learning about a proper business strategy. Now, I've read many books and I've studied many businesses. I'm going to tell you what. This one right here from Clayton M. Christensen, The Inventor's Solution, has to be probably the best business strategy flowchart I've ever seen. The only one coming second to this would be Ray Dalio from the Bridgewater Report. Very similar, almost identical, so great minds think alike. If you haven't read this book, pick it up. Beautiful book. Anything by Christensen's fantastic. He's written actually one of the most beneficial books when it comes to entrepreneurship. Okay, so I'm not too sure if you guys can see this, but let's kind of go in on it, okay? It's a little flow chart over here. Let me zoom in for you. You guys can see that, okay? So you see the flow chart, right? Just take a snapshot of that. I'm gonna put it maybe on the screen over here so you can follow me, okay? But the whole idea is if you're looking at the flow chart, the first step is the organizational value. That's the first thing you have to identify of your company. Is like, what is your ethos? What do you stand for? What is your culture? And what is your core values of the business? You gotta kind of nail that out in the beginning. If you don't have that culture, the ethos, the mythology of your business, you don't have no organic, I call it, an organic organism, a living organic organism, which is any business. So first, really identify that. Number two, you got to understand the resources that you have. Each stage of business has different resources, whether you're a startup or early stage startup, later stage startup, a medium-sized company, a Fortune 500 company, you got different resources. And in this book, they allocate 3 different sections of resources. For the sake of the conversation, we will allocate 2 resources. Resource 1, money. Resource 2, talent or people. Okay, so resource 1, how much money do you have in your business? What is your runway cash? And resource number 2 is great. Now you have money, but who's going to actually execute on this money? The third phase or the third segment of this flow is investment in new products, services, processes, and acquisitions. Okay, we won't get into that this second. And finally, the actual strategy. And from the actual strategy, you see a feedback loop. And this is what this is why I said Ray Dalio at the beginning has a very similar system, because once you have your strategy and then you put your strategy out there, obviously you're gonna get feedback. The marketplace is gonna tell you, I like this product, I don't like this product, or it's a long sales cycle, or your team is not executing properly, and therefore you have to feed back. So if you're looking at, again, right, it's a feedback system going forward. Now, obviously, let's go through this step by step to understand the whole ecosystem. Right now you should see something right here. Okay. So if we're looking at this from the linear pathway, organizational value, resource allocation, investment in new products, and actual strategy, those are pretty self-explanatory. You got to spend your time going one by one, writing out exactly what do you have and what is your morals and what is your ethics, etc., etc. And eventually you will be ending up with the actual strategy. Now, your actual strategy is the hypothesis, is an assumption of what do you think it's going to take to actually achieve this strategy. It can be a strategy for a sales campaign. It can be a strategy for a new product, as I say. It can be a strategy for a new service. It can be a strategy for business acquisition. It doesn't matter. It's an assumption. It's a hypothesis. Anything we do in business or in life, it's assumption and hypothesis that we believe through our calculated efforts or due diligence that this may work and this may be the results. However, as you and I both know, that's not always the case. If we start here, most likely we're going to pivot. It's going to look like a zigzag to actually get to the results that we want. So once you have these actual strategies that you think is going to work, this is where the magic comes in. There's two levels over here, okay? So the first is once you start executing this, you're going to have improved understanding of what works and what doesn't work. And this is why it's really key that I think on a week-to-week basis, maybe half an hour at the end of the week, and then a monthly meetup, you actually go through what's working and what's not working. So for example, if you have an OKR for the month, or you have certain milestones that you want to reach in the month, every single week, maybe you can spend half an hour on a Monday or Friday, really doesn't matter. I like at the end of the week, but spend half an hour with your team going over the actual KPIs and numbers to see what's working, what's not working, so document that. Then at the end of the month, you want to take those numbers if you've documented it, and then you want to kind of apply that to a deliberate strategy. So you had the actual strategy, or we can even rename it to the artificial strategy because we created it. And then now through the feedback system from us collecting data of what's working, what's not working, we can now actually create a deliberate strategy. So this is the artificial, this is kind of the organic deliberate strategy. Now that deliberate strategy, if you're following that chart right here on the side, The deliberate strategy, the one that we're getting information from, it actually feeds back to your resources. Because let's say we realize a certain sales channel that we had in our actual strategy is working 10 times more than we actually expected to. Now we know those resources we can fund, we can actually, I want to say fund, we can divert resources from something else that we're doing and fund the one thing that's doing 10 times better. So we want to expand and maximize and optimize that one sales channel. However, exact same time, if you're looking at the lower section over here, you're looking at the unanticipated opportunities, problems, and success. So these are things such as like black swans or things that you can never ever predict happen with the execution of your strategy. So with these unanticipated opportunities or problems or even successes, that will also determine how your new strategy will be executed for the next round. So if you're following the flow chart from the actual strategy, it goes down to an emergent strategy. I call this a black swan strategy because you can never predict this. You can never calculate for this. It's just like, hey, we never knew that if we do this and this and that, that equals that. And this is, I would say, kind of the masterpiece of any business strategy I've ever seen. It's simple. You can create this flow chart and apply it to a sales campaign. You can create this flow chart and apply it to business acquisition. You can create this apply it to anything, for SEO, for marketing. It really doesn't matter. It's so simple. It works for teams of one person, teams of 5, teams of thousands of people. And Christensen deals with Fortune 500 companies, have thousands of employees around the world. They're worth billions of dollars. So it works on every single level. And what I love about this is it's so simple. It's a feedback system, no different than you and I putting our finger on the stove, like, next time I'm going to put my finger on the stove. So that being said, take this model that you see right now, expand it, fill in the actual diagram. So organizational values, resource allocation, investments, actual strategy, then execute it and then see what you get. See what kind of new deliberate strategy that you get and see what kind of black swan strategies, kind of like unanticipated, and then feed that back in and reallocate. Actually, if you guys think about it, this looks kind of like same thing Ray Dalio does with diversified investment portfolio, where you have different things moving around every quarter. Actually, I just connected that. It's quite fascinating. Anyways, I hope this helps. Pick this book up. Fantastic book. Read it. I don't consider this a book. I consider this a resource guide. I actually have it in my library. As you can see, this thing is bunny-eared everywhere and notes all over the place. So I constantly go back to it. But I hope that helps. If you have any questions about business strategies or whatever, leave a comment below this video. And you like this video, subscribe to this channel, share this channel with your friends. And that's it. Peace.